We're taking a break from Premier League action for a midweek League Cup tie as Chelsea take on Brighton and Hove Albion under the lights at Stamford Bridge. But who will play and how did Chelsea win? Let's get to it. Lads, lasses and the rest of the masses, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mono from MonoCFC and welcome to the lead-in. Like always, I'm going to be predicting the lineups that I feel will play and show how I believe each team could set up tactically. So without further ado, let's firstly look at our opponents for this match. Brighton are currently sitting in third in the Premier League table and have been one of the brightest, pardon the pun, teams in the league thus far. Their team has had a large transformation in the last season or two, with a combination of great scouting / recruitment and the appointment of an excellent manager proving ever fruitful for the South Coast side. Looking at the head-to-head, we can see that Brighton have been a bit of a bogey team for us in recent history, losing our previous two competitive fixtures against them. However, the last time these two sides met, which was in pre-season at the start of the Premier League Summer Series, we actually beat Brighton in a game that ended 4-3. They'll be looking to erase that blemish from an otherwise successful record against us and take us out of the cup in the process. So, how will they plan on trying to achieve that? Let's look at the team. Brighton, managed by Roberto De Zerbi, are able to play a variety of formations, but they've stuck to the 4-2-3-1 for the most part, so that is the setup I'll be putting them into. First up in goal, I'm going to be putting in Jason Steele. Bart Verbruggen had an absolute howler last time out, and as the cup is an opportunity to rotate players, I'd expect the second choice goalkeeper to come in for this one. For the back four, it's going to be a very strong one, I believe. Ex-Chelsea man Tariq Lamptey will come into the side as one of the few players that rotate in, I believe, trying to rekindle some of the form he had when he first arrived at the club. In right centre-back, I think it will be another rotation, this time taking out Adam Webster in favour of the man who got sent off against us last time out, Van Hecker. In left centre-back is the obvious inclusion of club captain Lewis Dunk. Over on the left remains the ever-impressive Pervis Estupiñán, who is so key to this Brighton team that I don't expect him to be dropped. Moving on to the midfield pivot, I think another ex-Chelsea man in Billy Gilmour will also start this one. He's been key for them ever since Caicedo left, and I expect him to keep things ticking in the engine room. Next to him, I'm going to be putting in Adam Lallana. I don't expect a Hood to play after playing the full 90 last time out, and since the obvious replacements in James Milner and Pascal Gross are doubts for this game, Lallana comes in for this one. Moving into the attacking midfield area, I think we will see a total reshuffle from the Bournemouth game. De Zerbi was obviously resting his starters in that game for this one, so the trio of Ansu Fati, Joao Pedro and Kaoru Mitoma start for me. There is definitely the option of playing Solly March in one of these positions too, but I reckon De Zerbi will play a strong attacking lineup here. Speaking of strong attackers, the final piece of the puzzle will be Evan Ferguson, who only played 45 minutes last time out. Now, usually I talk about how the opposition's team functions, but I touched on this during pre-season in this video, so if you'd like some insight on that, I'd suggest you watch that. I don't want to constantly repeat myself in these videos, and I'd like to focus more on Chelsea for this one. So, speaking of the Blues, let's talk about Chelsea. But real quick, if you're enjoying the content and want to see more, please consider subscribing to the channel. Cheers. Let's start with the formation. We know it's going to be 4-3-3, but I'd expect this to play out more like a 3-4-3 in actuality because of one rotation we're having to make. So, first up in goal, I'm going to be putting in for his Chelsea debut, Djordje Petrovic. This is as good a time as any to get the lad some minutes, and despite Sanchez's great form as of late, I'd expect the Serbian to start. For the back four, there will be forced changes here. Axel Disasi comes into play at right back as Malo Gusto is currently suspended for 3 games because of that utterly ridiculous red card against Aston Villa. I'd actually expect him to play more as a right centre back during the game, however. The two centre backs will be a pairing of Thiago Silva, unfortunately, and Levi Colwill, who will now be able to play in his favoured position in left centre back. Lastly, in at left back, it's going to be a return to the side for vice captain Ben Chilwell. I wanted to put in Cucurella here, but Poch mentioned that Chilwell will play in his press conference, so I'd expect him to start. In the midfield, I'm going to alter things slightly. Again, as this is the cup, I'd expect a few rotations, and one of them could come here in the middle. Leslie Ugachukwu gets a start in this one, I believe, sitting as the deepest midfielder and able to play the majority of the game as a 6. In front of him, I'd expect Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez to start, which means Conor Gallagher is the man to be dropped. Honestly, I do feel as if Conor needs rest, and after a less than convincing performance against Villa, this could be the opportunity to do so. For the 3 attacking players, I'm going to go with a change here too. I continue to play Mykhailo Mudryk on the left, he's been our brightest attacking spark in the front 3, and he will only improve with continued starts. On the right, I'll be putting in Cole Palmer, who looked very promising in the Aston Villa game when he came on, and as Sterling had an awful game, I'd expect him to be rested. For the striker, I'd have loved to see Broja start, but Poch has confirmed in his press conference that he won't, but will instead get eased back into things with a small amount of minutes in the second half. This means that Nico Jackson will almost certainly start, though I'd love for David Washington to get an opportunity too. Now I know some people in the comments might be confused about this, so let me explain things. Jackson is suspended for accumulating 5 yellow cards, but that suspension only impacts league games. This is different from Gusto's because his was a straight red, which does carry over into cup games as well. So Jackson is available for selection in this cup tie, and I'd expect him to start. Now I'm going to break down how I think we should play in order to get a result against Brighton, but before I do so, it's time for the question of the day. I'm going to highlight some of the comments from the last video, so here are a few responses to the last question of the day. Thanks guys for your continued support as ever. If you want your comment to be featured in the next video, leave your answer to this video's question of the day down below with QOTD at the start as always. So for this week's question of the day, we'll go for an interesting one. Once Broja is back to full fitness, do you want him to replace Nico Jackson in the team, and if so, why? Alright, so how will we play? Well, I think this game will be vastly different to what we saw in pre-season. I expect Brighton to be ruthless against us, and to be honest, I don't expect us to boss possession as much as we'd usually do. But I believe this is actually a good thing. We saw against Villa that we were able to create opportunities far easier when we spring counter-attacks. Even when we were a man down, we still managed to muster attacking opportunities, despite Villa getting more of the ball. Personally, the prospect of us losing the ball high up the pitch and getting broken on by Ansu Fati and Mitoma is a terrifying one, and I'd rather us try to do that same idea back to Brighton instead. Luckily for us though, Brighton are a team that like to push up the pitch. They leave gaps in behind for runners, so if we can exploit that with Enzo's passing and Jackson/Mudryk's runs behind the lines, then I feel we can get success. In general, I expect us to create a lot of opportunities in this game. It's just a matter of if our forwards want to convert any chances or not. I have no doubt that at the end of this game, whether we win or lose, we'll be thinking to ourselves, we could have scored more. Our defence is statistically one of the better ones in the league, so I don't expect Brighton to roll us over like they have with so many other teams. As this is a cup game, I genuinely believe pragmatism is our best bet. Dragging Brighton to penalties would be a success in my opinion, and might actually be our best chance of winning this game if I'm being honest. Poch has cup experience. He knows how to get to a final because he dragged Spurs to the final of the Champions League. I hope he can use some of that experience to get us through this game unscathed. One thing we will have to be wary of in this game is not pressing too much. Brighton are excellent at playing around pressure and will just pick us apart if our press is very high, or if some players aren't fully committed to that press. Instead, we should look to win the ball in midfield areas, rather in the final third. Caicedo and Leslie will be able to boss the midfield in my opinion, and as there isn't much height in Brighton's midfield, I'd suggest that Leslie would thrive if Brighton ever decide to go long from the back, which I doubt, but still. With our defence set up as it is, I'd expect us to move into a 3 at the back as I mentioned before, with Chilwell pushing into attacking areas but Disasi staying back, meaning the majority of our play will go down the left hand side instead of the right like usual. And this could be a massive benefit with Mudryk playing on the left. I've been complaining recently about him being our best attacker but not being given the ball, and hopefully now with our team lopsided to the left instead, he will get the opportunity to shine up against the more attack-minded Tariq Lamptey. It would be so like Chelsea to lose all these games to weak opposition and then get a result against an actually good team like Brighton, but I'm not that hopeful in the grand scheme of things. This game, the game against Fulham and the game against Burnley coming up are so vital for us and should all be treated as must-win games. We haven't been good enough lately in terms of scoring, and that needs to improve right now or we'll struggle in the league in the long run. For a score prediction, I am not confident at all. I don't think we will win this game, truth be told, but as always, I will never predict us to lose. I'll never go against my own team, so I'm going to go for 1-1 with Chelsea winning on penalties. I'm going to say that our goal will come from Chilwell, finally getting a goal after being put into his regular position. Brighton's goal will come from courtesy of João Pedro, who tore us apart last time out. But that was just my lead-in match preview for Chelsea vs Brighton. Thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on these possible lineups in the comment section below, and if you'd be so kind, subscribe to the channel and leave the video a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, or check out some of the other videos on the channel on screen right now. I've been Mono from MonoCFC, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on, you Blues.